In this video I'm going to show you that my knitting is not always perfect. I make mistakes just like the rest of you, and in this video I'm going to show you a new pair of socks I have on the needles. I did shadow wrap heels for the first time, and the first sock, the result was not good, but I decided not to rip out, I just kept going. So in this video I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix it, because it was a little bit messy on one side and I got a bit of a hole. So even if you have never done socks or short row heels on socks, sometimes you end up with a little bit of a hole in your knitting somewhere where you don't want it. If you're knitting a sweater in the round and you have to pick up stitches at the underarm, for example, that's somewhere you can sometimes get a bit of a hole, or other places where you pick up stitches. So in this video I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix this particular heel, but it's also useful if you have a place in your knitting where you end up with a hole that you didn't really want, or if you catch a strand of your knitting and pull it and you end up with like a long loop. I'll show you how to deal with that as well. If you're new here, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns, I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And let me know in the comments if you make mistakes like this as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. So let's take a look at the heel. I did shadow wrap heel for the first time on these socks, and I probably should have redone it after the first time I did the heel. I should have unraveled it and redone it because I knew I wasn't happy with it. But let's have a look at it. This side isn't too bad. I'm not 100% happy with it, but I think that's the way it's supposed to look. The other side, however, is a bit of a mess. I think I made a mistake here when I first started, when I did the first turn, because there's this there's this green bit here, which I don't think is supposed to be here. Then we got this quite big hole here, and when I pull on this yarn, it will tighten up the hole, but then leave me with a big loop. I'm also not happy about how it looks here. Down here it looks okay, but I think up here it looks a little bit messy. This is where I started, so that's the first few rows, and then maybe I got better at it, I don't know. But let me show you how I will deal with any hole. So getting hole in your heel turn is fairly common, I think. If I do a normal heel flap and heel turn, I will normally pick up a couple of extra stitches, one each side, and then decrease them on the next row. But I didn't do that with this, and the problem, I don't think it's the fact that I've got a hole here. The problem is that I've got this really big loose stitch here. You can see it a bit better from the wrong side here. So the main problem is that this stitch is really loose and big, and that allows you to pull apart, because once I tighten that, I think it looks okay. But I have all this extra yarn that I need to try and get rid of. So depending on how much extra yarn you have, you can, if it's long enough, you can just try and weave it in. I'm actually going to use a bit of spare yarn. I think even if I weave in that end, there's still going to be a tiny hole there. So I'm going to take some spare yarn in the same colour and a sewing needle. Now if you just get a hole at the back of the sock, I would just close up that hole. So let's imagine there's no loop of yarn here. I would just weave in the yarn to start off. So first I would just fasten the yarn like that, for example, and then I would go across this hole exactly how you do it depends on how big it is and where it is and that kind of thing. You don't want to go across it too many times, so I would just go across it a few times like that, and then turn it around to the right side and check that I'm happy with it, and then weave in the end and trim the ends. So let me pull that out. But here I do have quite a long loop, so let's see if we can weave that loop in on its own and see what that looks like. If the loop is very short, you can weave in use a new yarn, take it through the loop and then kind of weave it in. But I'm wondering whether this is short enough or long enough, sorry, to weave it in on its own. So that's the best way to do this. So I'm going to go across this orange row here. I'm going to just go into a few stitches like that. So I've taken the needle through a few stitches, then I'm going to thread that through the end of my needle and pull it through. Sometimes if I have just a loose thread in my needle, you know, sometimes you pull a stitch or you catch a stitch and it pulls the thread through. That's usually what I will do. But I think I will still get a little bit of a hole here. It's probably going to be okay, but just to be on the safe side, I'm going to use this spare yarn. And what I like to do is weave in a bit of an end to start with. So what you can do is you can close up the hole and then weave in two ends, either end of your spare yarn or later, or you can, I quite often will weave in the end, go back a few stitches like that. So that's now secure. I will trim that end off later, and then I will just go across here just to make sure that it's I don't end up with a hole here. There we go. I think that's enough. You don't want to do too much because then it can get a bit bulky. So because I've woven in two ends on this side, I'm actually going to take this one up here away. You don't want to weave in all the ends in the same place because it can get a little bit bulky. So we'll take this end through here. That's probably more than enough. And then we're going to go back a few stitches, which will go into this blue row here because it's a bit easier. There we go, just back a few stitches. And then I'm going to trim that and trim that. So let's turn this inside out and put it back on the sock blocker and see what it looks like. I haven't knitted the second sock yet, but I will be more careful with the second sock to try and make sure that my heel looks a bit neater. I'm also not 100% happy about this green strand here. I don't know whether that's just something that's going to end up happening regardless what I do. But I don't know. I'm going to leave that there for now because I don't think my husband will really notice. I think he will think these are good enough. It's a little bit gappy here as well. So I may later go and sew up these bits a bit. Or let's do that now if I've got enough yarn. It's obviously not ideal to have to sew up several holes in your heels, but I'm being fully transparent here. It's on this side. It's these first few rows, so I think I probably got better as I got further into this heel, which means that if I'd unpicked it straight away and re-knitted it, I probably would have been 100% happy, but I didn't because I was too lazy. Okay, so it's here that is a little bit gappy. I don't know if I can really do anything about that. So first it's worth trying to see if you can tighten up any stitches. Maybe able to feed the yarn through. Be careful when you do this. You may be able to feed the yarn through to kind of pick up the slack. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so I end up with these loopy bits there. So let's see if we can sort this out. Right, because I've woven in two ends there and one end over here, I'm going to go here. So we'll just go a few stitches that way. and then we'll go a few stitches back. And then we'll go across here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to like tighten these threads that are pulled out. But what I'm going to do, this may look a bit weird and other people may do this differently. I'm going a bit away from where that yarn is so that when I pull it, it will tighten it. And then I'm going to go back again, pick up the next strand. There's 2 strands there, so let's do those 2 together. Then I want to try and pull those so they tighten like that. And then just go stitch a bit further away so that when you pull it tight, they are kind of stretched. And we'll go back again. We'll just see there's a couple of sort of holes here. I don't know if I can tighten this up. That one's a bit loose. Oh, look, we managed to tighten these up a little bit. End up with another bit of a loose bit here. So let's just try and get to that. So I'm going under that strand, and then that's still loose, so we'll go through it again and then we'll come all the way up here to these blue stitches. I'm going to just go through it again. There we go. And then I'm going to go, because that one's quite a long thread, I just want to make sure it's kind of hidden so that when my husband puts his socks on, he's not catching his toe in it. Well, you got to be careful when you're doing these things is that you don't make it too lumpy. There we go. So I'm not 100% happy with this. It doesn't look that great from this side, but I don't think my husband will notice. I hope he won't. So I'm going to just weave this one in up here. And then we'll just go back a couple of 3 stitches or something. 1, 2, 3, that'll do. Okay, so let's trim these ends. There we go. It looks a bit of a mess here, to be quite honest. It's much better on this side. A little bit loose, but it's not as bad. I quite often, when I do short rows, end up getting it looser on one side than the other. But it'll be interesting to see what my second sock, the Shadow Wrap heel, ends up with on the second sock, to see if it ends up looking better. So let's have a look and see what it's like. So that's the side I wasn't happy with. I definitely think that looks a bit better. Still not perfect, but I'm happy with it, apart from that green bit there, but I'm not going to do anything about that. So just to show you that my knitting is not always perfect. I also make mistakes, and I also sometimes have to fudge things after I've made it. So if you knit something and you have a little hole somewhere and you don't want to unpick and re-knit stuff, you can just get a bit of yarn and a needle and sew it up on the back. Just check what it looks like on the front to make sure it looks okay and you're happy with it. And don't be too much of a perfectionist, because other people probably won't notice it as much as you will. So if you think you can live with a mistake, go for it. Fix it, and don't tell everyone you made a mistake. I only told you and did this video just to show you that I too make mistakes, and when I do, this is how I will fix it. I will quite often fudge things. If you have any questions, please ask below this video and let me know if you sometimes do little fudges like this, little corrections like this. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I will see you next time.